Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks, powered by Chris Gates Fitness. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, what's up, my man?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yes. Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm up. I'm up. Today was one of those days. I mean, I've never done this before. I've slept through and have not appeared at Starbucks, but I have not turned my alarms off, and then I usually wake up about a half hour early, maybe 25 minutes early. Today's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna set this alarm for 10 minutes before. I need these extra 20 minutes. They're very valuable, and I'm feeling it actually. I feel a lot more refreshed today than normal.
Well, it's good. Good
Thank
for you.
Maybe
I feel
found a new
just as
trick going
tired.
forward.
I feel just as tired as normal, but we're gonna power through.
Yeah, absolutely. Much like Ben Cherington in this trade deadline. So with that said, we have a lot to talk about. As always, we're going to have Anthony Murphy on, talk some prospects. We'll preview this upcoming series. Pirates play a big one against the Houston Astros. They have a lot of big series coming up. I mean, they have the Astros, they have the Padres, the Diamondbacks again, the Dodgers, the Mariners. It's a tough stretch. So, I feel like we're talking about this stretch, like heading into the All-Star break, how important it was. And I feel like this is probably even more important because this is some really good teams, Jim. And of course, the trade deadline's Tuesday. And all the things that are happening to the Pirates that we're going to talk about right now have happened to them.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I made that PowerPoint on Thursday, and Ben Cherington just decided to ignore it, apparently.
Now, wait a minute. Actually, we had a comment on that. I want to say this because I saw the comment too. And I took a screenshot of it because it was funny. We didn't plan this here, but yeah, Sean Moore says 2 days removed from Jim's insightful PowerPoint presentation, and the Pirates have done nothing but miss opportunities to improve the team. Can't help but feel like they did him dirty. Yeah. You spent all that time in that PowerPoint.
I really did. And my top 2 targets gone. But guess what?
Wow.
Hey, consolation prize. The Pirates were a close second on Jazz Chisholm. So, we should feel really happy about that. Came in second.
You got to be comfortable saying no. You just do.
You got to be comfortable just trotting Michael A. Taylor out there.
You have to.
You need to be comfortable being able to do that.
You need to trust your gut and be comfortable saying no. Got to trust it, Jim. You know what else you can trust? BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform for your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet up to $250 of your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online. The game starts here. The trade deadline has not started for Ben Cherington, though.
No, and I mean, in his defense, he's got until 6 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, July 30th. So it's not done. But he got lucky. Like if the Pirates hadn't won yesterday, you'd be looking at this. I was prepared when the Pirates were losing 2-1 in the 9th inning yesterday. I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna have to go on Starbucks tomorrow and talk about how this team, who would have been at that point 4 games out of the playoffs, below 500. If they had lost yesterday, DiNardo, you're sellers. You're sellers, plain and simple. You can't justify going out there and like selling off assets for this year when you are a below 500 team and there's 5 teams ahead of you that you've got to, I mean, there have been quite a few teams ahead of with hires at that point. They would have had to make up a ton of ground. Their postseason odds would have plummeted probably to around 10 to 12%, which isn't good. That's where like the San Francisco Giants and like Cincinnati Reds kind of are right now. Reds are a bit lower than that. But like if they had lost yesterday, it would have meant a drastic change in how you go about this trade deadline. Another thing Ben Cherington said yesterday too that just kind of I don't know, it sort of rubbed me the wrong way is that he mentioned that no matter what injuries happened this past weekend, which again it was a bad weekend for the Pirates. It's simple. That whatever injuries happen, whatever losses happen, doesn't change his approach. That doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies that the approach was ever really that good then. Like, if Nick Gonzales going out for a month doesn't change your approach to getting this team better, then what were you planning on doing exactly?
Let me add something to that. And I just say this, and please believe me, I am not defending. But maybe that adds to like what you were talking about. Like now you become sellers. And maybe the idea is, hey, just because he's injured doesn't mean we're looking at this and saying we're going to sell now. Our approach is still we're going to buy, we're going to make this team better. I'm just saying that, Jim, because like I would rather hear that than say, well, no, guys, let's be real. Rowdy's injured. Nick Gonzales is injured. What are we doing here? You think we're buyers? No, we're selling. You know what I mean? So like, I'll take it like, let's be positive and say, at least you said that, and say, well, no, we're turning into buyers now. I mean, sellers now. So there's that aspect of it. But I mean, Ben Cherington's not going to give you anything. Absolutely nothing. He doesn't have the balls to tell you anything.
Yeah.
But, like with that said, I understand that there's still time till tomorrow, till Tuesday. I get that. Tuesday, 6 p.m. is the deadline. I guess my thing is, why is it always the Pirates? And this isn't going a tangent, but it's just like, but it's always the deadline for the Pirates. Everything is always the deadline for the Pirates. They're the ones that, and I have no room to talk, but when the show starts at 7, you get up at 6:54. Right? If something starts at 8 o'clock, you show up at 8:05 for it. And like, can there ever be urgency? Like ever? It's not that it's wrong to wait to the deadline. It's wrong. They're not doing anything, and then stuff's going to happen at deadline. But it's like, can there ever be a moment for the Pittsburgh Pirates that they can be ahead of schedule? The first something, right? Does it always have to be at 6:25? We're going to find out what they did.
I think the biggest point that you made here is just I think they just waited too long. They waited too long. And this weekend may have, I'm not going to say it put a nail in the coffin, but like the coffin was purchased. Like they've got it on layaway or something. I don't know.
Donated.
But Like
Clearly.
it's there. Yeah, you think they bought a coffin? Jeez. But like you look at these playoff odds, right? And I get playoff odds are projections. They're like if what they're odds, right? But they mean
Sir,
something. They
sir, if there's one person that loves the projections, it's Ben Sherrington. But
yeah.
continue.
But like when we did this show last week on July 22nd, right? The Pirates had a 25% chance to make the playoffs, according to
Mhm.
Fangraphs. It's pretty not great. Like you want it to be higher, but like that's a legitimate shot. 1 week later, and it's at 14. So their playoff chances almost dropped in half this
Mhm.
past week.
Mhm.
And in large part because they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. They even took 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals in that stretch. Like, they had a good series against St. Louis. Coming off of that series, you're going into this big series against Arizona. The issue is, like, both of those teams are ahead of you. So you gained ground on St. Louis. Their playoff odds went from 43% to 30. So, like, you helped take the Cardinals out of the playoffs. But then you go into Arizona, you lose Friday, you lose Saturday. The win yesterday was just absolutely huge. Because if they had lost
Yes, it
that
was.
game, if they had lost that game, I think it's over. Like I know it's July 29th and you're 4 games out, but at that point, like your chances are just not looking good. But it was just it sucks because it's bad time. Like the Brian Reynolds bereavement is just bad timing. Y y it's it's never a good time for something like that to happen, but this was, like, obviously a really, really bad time. I've had that happen at my work too, where it's like, "Hey, I know it's a bad time to have to do this, but I gotta take, like, 3 days off," life happens, and it fell on the Pirates' biggest weekend of the year, and you can't help but wonder, like, if Brian Reynolds is there this past weekend, they like Friday, they maybe win Friday's game. And now we're looking at
Yeah.
winning 2 out of 3, and then we have a totally different this shows a totally different way. Um, but instead, you lose 2 out of 3. Nick Gonzales goes down with a pretty apparent groin injury. He's gonna be out a while. Rowdy Tellez is out with back spasms. He pinch hit yesterday, so hopefully you can get him back in the lineup soon. But it's
And it came up very clutch yesterday too.
it was a huge at bat. But it was a bad weekend. Like overall, it was a really bad weekend for the Pirates. And the most frustrating part is that yeah, like there's a deadline and it's Tuesday, but that doesn't mean you couldn't do stuff beforehand. And if Ben Sherrington had done stuff, say like the middle of last week, this whole weekend could have been completely different. And so that's the frustrating part for me is that there was a clear cut, pretty good fit available for you in center field. Like and there's really like if we went through everything on Thursday, like center field's a problem and there's not a lot of options out there. Like outside Jazz, you're then looking at, maybe a Tommy Pham, which doesn't really move the needle all that much. It's better than what you're trotting out there, Michael A.
Mhm.
Taylor and Jack Sawinski, which, by the way, Sawinski going to be optioned today, apparently, according to Robert Murray. You got to imagine that's just going to be the corresponding move for activating Brian Reynolds. But that means G1 Bay probably staying up here, at least for the foreseeable future, being that other outfielder taking Sawinski's spot. Like you've got to get something. You got to bring something in that's better than this because we see this lineup and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. And Ben Sherrington failed the team this weekend by not putting out a better product.
He failed the team in the offseason to begin with. That's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem. Okay. from day one, you've heard me talking about risk mitigation. You need to sign some quality veterans to go around this team because the team's very young. They're going to have their ups, they're going to have their downs. Now, we didn't expect as many downs from the offense. But regardless, it's a young team and they're going to have ups and they're going to have downs. Like, you can't expect Nick Gonzales to come up and just start hitting. And he did actually. But then he dropped off, as most rookies do. That's why you want to supplement this roster with good quality veterans. Go spend a little bit of money. Go spend a little bit of money. Go put some quality bats around this team. Go get some quality depth as far as pitching goes, because there's rookies coming up and you don't know how the innings are going to go. There's guys coming off of injuries. You're not sure what's going to happen, right? Risk mitigation. And here we are. You don't have the depth. All of your rookies, all of your young players, not just even rookies, just every single young player has been piss poor this season offensively. Like, look at every person that has an above average weighted runs created plus that's hitting above average for this season. There's 5 of them. It's Brian Reynolds. It's Joey Bart. It's Joshua Palacios, Andrew McCutchen, and O'Neal Cruz. And not to turn this into a faction of whatever, because I know this is going to go this route, but what that is 2 carryovers from Huntington. I'm sorry, and Jason DeLay. That was the other one. So 3 carryovers from Huntington, a player that was DFA'd this year, and a Rule 5 minor league draft pick.
Which Palacios is now below 100. That's how small that sample size was. One game he dropped him. Yeah.
So, but with that being said, though, there's nothing he can stamp on this team offensively. Nothing, really.
Yeah, I mean, Joey Bart's the only person.
That's the biggest problem, right? And again, and if you're going to be proud of the DFA catcher that you claimed as your mark on, hey, I can build an offense, buddy. But at any rate, that's where he failed. He failed to begin with, and that's why they're in this situation today. That he's also. I'm not going to stamp the failure part yet. It's not over. But to your point, yes, this is a big weekend. A lot of things happened, and there's no help right now. And yes, that center field option seemed very good for multiple reasons in Jazz. And you know what, Jim? Jazz also can play second base. Just saying right now.
Yeah. We talked about this yesterday a little bit, just, in our group text or whatever, but you're right. He put himself in this position with a bad offseason. He didn't go out there and do what he needed to this offseason. He didn't acquire the players that he needed to. He didn't do enough to make the team better in year 5, right? So now we're at this point strictly because our pitching staff has carried us to this point. The Pirates have scored less runs than the Oakland A's to this point, right? And the A's have a below average pitching staff. It's not the worst in the league. It's well below average, right? And they're 20 games under 500, right? Because their pitching isn't good. The Pirates pitching is really good. So it got them at least into this 500 situation where they're teetering on this playoff edge. Yeah, if you would have just gone out there and done something to affect this lineup in a meaningful way, that was more than, I mean, you can go out there and say Rowdy Tellez is definitely he's been the biggest impact bat that we acquired this offseason. And Rowdy Tellez has been great since June 1st, right? It's been awesome. Honestly, couldn't ask for more from Rowdy Tellez from June 1st on. But April and May happened. Those were just because Rowdy Tellez has been very good since June 1st doesn't mean that April and May didn't happen.
Right.
And we came on this show multiple times being like, this is unacceptable. He's playing awful. So he's sort of made up for it, and he's kind of become like this league average hitter mashed together between these last 4 months. Um, but again, like April and May happened, and they were really bad, and it put this team in a position where it is now, where if he had been playing like this the whole time, Pirates probably we're well into the playoffs at this point, maybe. And we're talking about just adding a couple pieces here and there to strengthen the team for October. So it's just frustrating. But again, back to my main point there. You came into this weekend. It was a big weekend. Like we talk about that 9-team division. Arizona is one of the teams ahead of you, barely, in that 9-team division. This was a huge series. And not only did you lose Reynolds going into the weekend, but you didn't do anything else to help this team. You didn't do anything else to help this team. And it's hard to really even put this on the offense because the offense didn't really play that bad this weekend.
Oh, it didn't. No.
So some of this is all for moot, but from a pitching standpoint, like Martin Perez didn't get it done. It's just it was a frustrating weekend all in all. At the end of the day, the offense did enough that you can't really look at them and get too upset, but they didn't execute when they needed to. Like the runs scored were there, and a lot of that had to do with that 10th inning yesterday. But I think they went like 2 for 20 with runners in scoring position
Right.
up until
Situationally,
that
it was
10th inning.
pathetic.
So it was just like you were running guys out there who were just they were getting dominated by Arizona's pitching. Like this dude Arizona threw out yesterday. He had like a 5-something ERA in his 3 major league starts. He was striking everybody out, and we couldn't hit his curveball. Like we weren't swinging at fastballs right down the middle. It was a rough game yesterday until the end of it.
Right.
Luckily, Mitch Keller was awesome.
Just like quickly here, you're correct. Like as far as runs being scored, you can't blame the offense, but situationally it was pathetic. And that's why I say like this lineup was certainly exposed. I mean, Friday right there. I mean, it's like I said, they scored 4 runs was in the post game. However, there's a lot of big moments. I mean, there's twice they had 2 guys on with no outs and they couldn't score runs, right? Like 3 straight outs in a row. It exposes how inept this lineup really is. But with that said, and again, like, yes, you can take and say, well, look, the offense was fine because, what I mean, it's just like, but the pitching has been so good, but you can't expect the pitching to be perfect every game. And that's where they're at. Like, there are going to be games you're going to have to score 7 runs. And like, that's just part of the problem also. Like, yes, a lot of it was on the pitching this weekend. And it happens. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, I don't put a lot of blame on the pitching because you know what? You guys have been damn good. It happens sometimes. It just does. It just does. But, again, like, why are you like, you don't need to be in this situation today. That's my biggest problem with the 2024 Pirates. Because wherever they stand, which is we're almost there, you just simply didn't have to be almost there. You could have actually been there. You could be the Padres right now. Where if I mean, of course, they've won 7 in a row, right? Maybe it's 8 now at this point in time. I forget what they did yesterday.
They did lose like yesterday, finally. Yeah.
Okay. But like you could firmly be in the wild card race. And if you have this skid this weekend with these injuries, you still feel okay because you know what? You got the depth that you needed. You're not on the outside looking in barely. You're not talking and debating if we lose this one game, are we buyers or sellers? You put yourself in this situation. You could have simply just been better. That's all. Anyways.
Yeah, and like I said, it's frustrating just seeing these names go to other teams. Like the Cubs have acquired a pitcher and a third baseman, and they're 5 games out of a playoff race. Like the Cubs have made themselves better. And you could talk all you want about if you think Isaac Paredes is going to succeed in Wrigley Field or not. But like Paredes is an upgrade over Morel, plain and simple, right? Like the Cubs got better. The Giants again are like back in this thing. You kind of let them back in this thing. But yeah, it's still okay because they're only 2 games out and there's 2 months left to go. Like, there's plenty of
Right.
time to win this thing. So, like, this isn't a doom and gloom, the sky is falling, it's over type of deal. They won 1 game this weekend which was enough to at least keep them afloat. It just it sucks that, like, every single game right now is so meaningful. Just the losses are gonna hurt a lot. Every loss from here on out is going to hurt a lot, and the wins are gonna be nice. The wins are gonna be really nice. You would just like to be in a position where the losses don't sting too much, especially during the stretch. Because, like you mentioned, like, you got the Cardinals coming up in a little bit. But if we talk about, you've got the Astros, which are in the AL, so let's kind of forget about them. But that's a tough
Well,
series.
it's
But
still a
then
good
we've
team.
got, yeah, still a good team. But then you got the Diamondbacks again. Then you've got the Padres, who are ahead of you right now. The Dodgers, a good team, obviously. And then you got the Padres again, who are ahead of you. You've got the Mariners, who went out there and got better this deadline. Again, American League team. You got the Rangers, who you hope that maybe the Rangers sell off a few pieces by the time you see them, that they're not that scary. Um, Reds, Cubs. Like, so, but this next stretch of Astros, Diamondbacks, Padres, Dodgers, Padres. Like, you got to make some noise against those teams. Going 500 against the Padres, if you're 3-3 against the Padres or 3-3 against the Diamondbacks, doesn't really do you any good. You've got to go 4-2 against those teams. And if you want to go 4-2 against the Diamondbacks now, you got to sweep them at home. Like, that's what you got to do. Because, like I said, they're ahead of you. 3-3
Right.
doesn't gain any ground. You've got to beat them.
But to your point, I think that's what we're going with. It's not as if you split. Like, it's not as if you go 3-3 with the Padres, it's the end of the world. But you didn't do anything. And now you're 6 games closer to the end of the season, and you have to make up ground. And, like, that's the team you have to make up ground against. That's why this is so important. And the other thing too, Jim, is those teams are getting better. So, like I talked to, like, the one thing to keep in mind about the trade deadline is everyone's getting better. So even though if you feel like all I need is 2 more bats and we're fine, every team feels like, well, if we just get 1 closer, we're fine. If we just get 1 more starting pitcher, we're fine. Right? Every team feels that way, and every team is doing that. So as you improve, the other teams are improving. So you can't have like a net zero improvement. You have to be better. And that's the symbolism to that is the Pirates have to be better because they have to get better than these teams. And these teams don't have to win as many games end of the year to get into the playoffs. Pirates have to win more than them. So, like, they have to be better than all these teams. And that's why I say, like, the Astros and Mariners, I know that's not like you're not playing them specifically, like the teams you're fighting for, like the Padres and Diamondbacks are. But those are good teams in the AL. So just because they're in the AL doesn't, like, it still matters. You can't lose those because there's a good chance the Padres aren't losing this series coming up. And now you're in a bigger deficit when you walk into PNC Park walk into San Diego and have to play the Padres at that point in time. Because then you're like, you have to take 4 out of 6. You can't split it because you've lost this Astro series or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like, that's why this is so important right now, because are you going to walk into the middle of August after the playing these and now you're 5 games back? Because now there's only a month and a half left of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is very crucial.
Well, and you mentioned, like, a part of this is the thing about the deadline is the other teams around you are going to get better. So we've seen the Padres have added an arm. The Mets have added Jesse Winker. The Diamondbacks have added an arm. So, like, these 3 teams that you're chasing have all gotten better. While as the Pirates have gotten worse. The Pirates got worse this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Because Nick Gonzales
And,
is
like,
out.
right.
They got worse. Plain and simple. Like, you lost your one bat who was you lost, like, you only have so many bats on this team that are aggressive, and Nick Gonzales is one of them. Like, Nick Gonzalez's numbers overall aren't great, but what's really nice about Nick Gonzales is that when a runner's on, he swings the bat. He swings the bat and he tries to hit that base runner in. That's what's good about Nick Gonzales. Now, Jack Swinski not on the team, so you could say that that's addition by subtraction, like Nola says in the comments. But
Sure.
are they like the guy they replaced him with is going to be G1 Bay, and G1 Bay provided a little bit of a spark last night, but we've all seen G1 Bay he's got like 500 plate appearances in the majors. He's not good. He hasn't been good during those 500 plate appearances. So I'd be like, how much better did they really get there? But
you saw
it's gonna.
So they saw that typical play in right field where it looked good, but just horribly ran. And he tried bunting at a ball that landed 4 feet in front of home plate. So yeah, the whole experience is certainly there as well.
Yeah. So it's frustrating because they were in a good position, and I said it was a rough weekend. Like plain and simple, it was rough. And they need to do something to get better here because the teams around them are, and they're running. Like I said, I would have gone out there and Jazz and Winker would have been my two guys that I would have targeted. Mm-hmm. And now both of them are gone, and they both went to other teams, and one of them went to a team you're directly competing against for this wild card spot.
Yep.
So now you got to look elsewhere.
Yep. Oh, either way, Jim. We want to get Anthony on, talk some prospects. We want to talk some
prospects. Yeah, let's talk some prospects real quick, and then we'll get into this series coming up. But while we're bringing Murphy on, Chris Gates Fitness, right? He sponsors our show here this morning. He has a brand new coaching service that's designed specifically for sports fans, just like you. The online fitness training camp. Training Camp is a low-cost monthly fitness membership program designed specifically for sports fans. And at this time of year, it's the perfect program to help you stay consistent and reach your health and fitness goals amidst tailgating, baseball season, and more. If you're ready to elevate your health and fitness goals and do it with a group of like-minded people looking to support each other and encourage each other, you have to check this out. There's so much in this thing. I joined a couple weeks ago. Absolutely blown away by everything that you get as a member. We've got some listeners who I noticed who are in the group already. So shout out to a few of you who have already joined. But yeah, get in there. You get customized monthly workout programs. It'll help you build your muscle, burn fat, and feel more athletic. And access to live Q&As with Chris, exclusive community support, and more will help hold you accountable and work you towards your goals. Training Camp members also compete in fitness challenges each month, as well as sports challenges like weekly football pick'em in the fall, where Chris gives out free prizes like home gym equipment, supplements, free one-on-one coaching calls, and more. And if you join right now and use the code Starbucks, STARBUCS, you'll get 80% off your first month. That's just $10. So don't miss out. Visit chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp. The link is in the description and start your journey. All right. Let's talk prospects. What's up, Murphy?
What's going on?
Same old.
Oh, Yeah.
It's a fun weekend, huh?
Very fun.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
Yeah.
But let's shift focus. Right, there was a lot of chatter. One of the people in the comments here asked if there was some rumors going around that there was a catcher involved in the Pirates' offer for Jazz Chisholm, and a lot of people I think thought that meant Henry Davis. I think that meant like an Omar Alfonso type guy, but interested. There's some catching depth in this system, and there's some interesting guys down there in Bradenton specifically that I think teams want. So. We know a lot about guys like Omar Alfonso and Axial Plaz because of you. So you bring a lot of value to the show, Murphy.
I appreciate that.
So let's talk about some guys who shined this past week, and maybe we'll hit somebody who ends up being in the news today. Who knows? But what do we think? Let's start with bats. Start with bats. Yeah.
Speaking of catchers, Henry Davis had a pretty good week last week on there. 10 hits, 3 doubles, home run, 8 RBIs. July he's been pretty good in July. He's not really walking at all. He's like a 145 WRC plus in July. It's just, I mean, he's looking pretty good. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to Mr. Jeb in a minute. But
do we have? No, we don't have to. We don't have to do that.
I mean, he led the system in hits. I'm pretty sure.
So Henry
Davis.
Yeah. I mean, looking at it here, 4 multi-hit games this week for Davis out of his 5 starts. Doubles, homer. I think his OPS is 999 right now in Indy. So yeah, I mean, he's looking at. What are you seeing from like a strikeout standpoint? Because I mean, obviously that was his big issue, specifically with velocity. Because like the numbers, we all know Henry Davis can mash AAA pitching. Like he's shown it over and over and over again. The problem has been once he gets to the majors, he's having problem, really hitting that elite type fastball. So just from watching him, are you seeing anything really different from him, or is he's just beating up on worse pitching? What's it look like?
Part of me wants to just say it's just like beating up on the worst pitching right now. It's kind of at the point now to where it's like I'll tune in and I want to see Henry Davis hit a couple balls and stuff like that. And like, okay, well, he's doing what kind of need him to do here. At this point, it's kind of like I just kind of want to see him do it in the majors now. There's nothing that he's really going to do down in AAA that's going to be like, okay, he's fixed now. It's time to move him up. It's really just his issue is hitting major league pitching, and until he's up here to hit the major league pitching, and like I've seen some stuff, and I've heard some people say too, like obviously going from AAA to the majors, there's going to be a pretty good step there, but the step from AAA pitching to major league pitching this year is even further than what it is in years before. So like it's nice to see him hit. It's obviously it could be worse, and he could be not hitting the AAA pitching. But also until he does it in the majors, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's more of okay, he's doing what he's supposed to do at this point, and we'll kind of see. But he is hitting well.
Yeah.
So you say he's had a lot of doubles, right?
He hit 3 last week.
Has he had a situation where he was on second, the ball was hit to the shortstop, and he just ran at third? Like just from rip, just ran right to third base, just never turned around and looked.
I mean,
no stopping.
None that sticks out to me. Right.
So get him in there above Yasmani Grandal. I'm ready.
I mean, at this point, like if I'm gonna have a catcher go up and have like a 50 to 60 WRC plus in the majors, I'd rather it be my former first overall pick than the catcher that you signed in the offseason. That's just me. Because then at this point, at that point, you give him the last couple months, and if it's like really bad, then you just know at that point it's time to plan accordingly and look elsewhere. But then if you kind of see something like, okay, well, maybe it didn't look great, but we saw a couple things here that we think we could work with now, you can kind of include him in the plans kind of thing going forward. But I mean, that's kind of hard to say because like you're competing for a wild card spot. It'd be kind of weird to like just willingly sacrifice a roster spot at that point potentially. But also if you're getting the same production from the other guy, you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're kind of still getting the same production now, and you can be solving something for the future kind of thing too. So
right.
Yeah. I mean, if it were up to me, Davis would be up here because I think what you just said there before hits it, where like we all know Henry Davis can hit AAA pitching. What he needs to learn how to do is hit major league pitching. Mm-hmm. And as much as he struggled this year, his offensive numbers are still better than Yasmani Grandal's. So really it's just a matter of like, can he handle the staff? And I think he showed us while he was up there, like he's fully capable of doing that. I mean, we've seen Grandal make terrible errors, both mental and physical behind the plate. So like, why not at this point? Like you said, like let's have the first overall pick try to figure it out, as opposed to the 36-year-old who is at the very end of his career, right? But that I mean, I'm gonna agree with everything you said there. I think, how has his defense looked in Indy? Anything stand out there at all?
I mean, it's like I've never been one that was like really high on his defense as is. So I mean, it's kind of just, I think the biggest thing with him is like just trying to find a way to get his arm to translate better, because like obviously he has a really strong arm. It's just he's thrown out over his career like 15% of base dealers in the minors, which doesn't make sense for someone who has a 70 grade arm at that point. So, and at that point, I like fine tuning catcher mechanics behind the plate's a little above my pay grade at that point. But it's just something that just doesn't click in with the exchange and whatnot. And so,
Yeah.
Haven't noticed anything to where it's like that's kind of been like further feed the case of like, well, see, this is why he shouldn't be a catcher. But also, I don't feel like I've seen any improvements at this point.
Got it. All
Good
right,
enough.
go ahead and talk about Mitch Jeb if you want.
I mean, don't sound too excited there.
Unless there's somebody else, right? We got one more hitter to talk about. So if we want to spend it talking about Mitch Jeb.
I mean, Mitch Jeb had 12 hits last week. He batted
All right,
500.
we'll talk about Mitch Jeb.
Yeah. He stole, was it 4 bases, 12 hits, 6 runs, couple doubles, more walks than strikeouts. I mean, like his OPS, I think, is creeping up to 700 now on there. Like it's getting there.
He's had a really good July.
Yeah. He's batting 324 in July, 168 WRC plus, couple home runs, more walks than.
I'm gonna do something for my boy Jim. I'm throwing the flag. I'm gonna make an audible here, because you know what? Honestly, though, too, I want to talk about tomorrow, and I feel like we haven't talked about tomorrow a whole lot on this show. And just because it is the trade deadline, not that he's getting traded, he ain't, but just trade deadline, I think he's been doing pretty well. Let's talk about tomorrow, because I'm interested too.
Mm-hmm.
How's tomorrow looking?
I mean, tomorrow's kind of at the point to where it's kind of like Henry Davis. Like, we know what the thing is with tomorrow is now. He's going to walk a lot. He doesn't chase. He never chases. Like he's hitting the ball a lot better. He's driving the ball a lot better. It just seems that there's still to spin to breaking pitches to off speed pitches. There's still a lot of miss there at times, and I mean, you can easily chalk that up to being he's a 20-year-old, barely a 20-year-old in high A right now. Like if he was still playing in Bradenton, if he wasn't the 4th overall pick, and then you have him in Bradenton still, I don't think you're probably upset at his age on there. A lot of the stuff comes from obviously him being the 4th overall pick, and Pipeline putting like the Wade Boggs and Vlad Guerrero comps on him.
Right.
I think someone at the draft combine said that like his batting practice session reminded him of Ken Griffey Jr. Like it's like you can't
That's
throw
a little
those
ridiculous,
you can't throw those kind of names out there with I would imagine at the time a 17-year-old kid. I don't think I'm as worried as like a lot of like the national outlets are. Like I think a lot of people are up in arms with like Baseball America dropping him off the top 100 and stuff like that. Like I don't think it's unfair that he fell off. I don't think it's unfair that he still hasn't jumped on with like their update. Because I do think there are some actual concerns there, but also I think I've seen enough there to where I'm not overly worried about it at this point. He is driving. Part of the early season issues was that even the balls that he was making contact with in the zone, he wasn't like squaring up a lot with it. Now he is a little bit more, and we obviously see the results of it. The numbers are looking a lot better with it. It's just I see like he'll have that like 1 for 4 game, and it's like we'll see it on Twitter, and it's like, oh well, Tamar extended the hitting streak. Awesome. But then it's like, okay, well, did you guys watch the other 3 at bats to where maybe there's a bunch of whiffs there, or it was a fastball down the middle, and he couldn't square it up and stuff like that. So like we see like the one highlight a day. We see the home run that he hits, but then it's like, well, do you see the other 3 or 4 at bats that he has in the game to where, okay, well, this kind of makes sense now.
Okay, I'm glad you say that because it sounds like there's maybe truths on each side. Because at one rate, like I posted the graphic, it's like since June 1st. I love using June 1st for some reason. Seems like everyone the Pirates offensively like clicked on that day. But since June 1st, Tamar's batting 294, 402, 490, a 151 weighted runs created plus, right? Like you look at it, it's like Tamar's back, right? He's coming back. He's playing well. And then you talk about nationally, you talk about Baseball Reference, but according to Keith Law out of someone else, I guess, saying like you're just a box score reader or whatever. Like basically like he's not really hitting. So hearing what you're saying kind of makes sense. Like the stats are there. Mm-hmm. He's hitting very well what he hits well, but he struggles. But I guess what you're saying is the struggles aren't as prominent as it was earlier. So like we're seeing some development, though, still some improvement on that. There's still a chance.
At least I feel like he's making progress, and I do kind of feel like at this point in the year, we're about to hit August. I kind of just feel at his age and stuff like that, you probably just let him finish the year in Greensboro. I don't think anything in Altoona. I don't think any sort of time in Altoona kind of does anything for him. It doesn't speed up the him getting to the majors or anything like that. Maybe he does. Some people are convinced like if he faces better competition, he kind of steps his game up. I mean, maybe that's the case. But then also maybe you don't think it's worth it to risk moving him any quicker than you've already kind of moved him at this point. I mean, he's still the kind of guy that, okay, if he does hit the ground running next year because he is facing better competition, I mean, you can just accelerate the timetable again a little bit next year. So,
yeah. I am a little concerned with Termar in that it seems like, and this is, I think, another thing that Keith Law said, but like you really look at it, and the numbers are good. Like it's hard to complain about the numbers, but like if there seems to really only be one thing that he does well, and that's walk, which is a skill. Like it's not to say that like that's not a nice skill to have, but like up to this point, it's hard to say he does anything else well. He's hitting 240 something. 11 home runs at Greensboro at this stage of the season isn't exciting in any way. Even from a stolen base standpoint, 15 steals doesn't seem like it should be enough. Defensively, he's fine, but if he does one thing well, and that's walk, everything else is pretty good. So I think there's definitely some reasons for concern because you do have to assume as he gets better, as he faces better competition, like one of two things are going to happen. One, he's just not going to walk as much because he's seeing more strikes, or that discipline that he has shown is going to start translating because he is going to start seeing more balls in the zone. And so what he's showing now, like this elite eye that he has, is going to help him perform better offensively because he's getting more balls around the zone. So Like it's kind of like which side is he going to go? I think there's plenty of reasons to be concerned about him, but at the same time, he's 20, just turned 20. It's like there's a lot of time to like figure out. Like Sean says here, like for 20 years old, that's a hell of a skill to have. I agree. Like that's a really nice skill to have at age 20 to be able to just know what's a strike, know what's a ball, and just don't swing at balls. That's a skill. But you got to be able to do more than that. And so you just hope that kind of comes around. So
yeah, and you mentioned the walk rate and stuff like that, and the maybe level. It makes me think of like back in 2021, like both Hudson Head and like Sam Siani, they walked almost like 30% of the time in Bradenton, and like it was kind of like, oh wow, look at the plate, the plate awareness, and the eye and stuff like that, and really like now you kind of sit back and think it's like, what was that? Them, or was that more they're in single A facing single A pitching where like pitchers can't really throw strikes? And obviously high A is a lot more of advanced level, but it's still the lower levels. And he's walking all this. Is it? And a lot of it is I've seen him lay off some like very good, very well placed pitches and kind of be like, oh, it's very legit. But then also too is like, there are some walks like that are sprinkled in here and there. That's like, okay, well, that's none of those 4 pitches were anywhere near the strike zone, so that's a very easy walk kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that the walk rate does drop a little bit as he moves up, but the key for him will be based off of watching him the last 2 years is how well he hits the breaking pitches inside the zone and how he does inside the zone, because that's just the issue. And if he's going to see more of those pitches in the zone, that just only adds more pressure to that for him.
Yeah. Before we move to pitchers here, because we're spending a lot of time on Termar, but a lot of comments here about Connor Griffin. Any concern there as far as the draft signing? He hasn't signed yet. From what I saw, he will definitely sign. Apparently, there's just a few. I think Jim Callis's words were, there's just a few things that are kind of need to be worked out in the contract, but he is going to sign. So don't be concerned about Connor Griffin. He will sign. He's not going to play this year anyway.
It's just going to be at the end of the deadline, Jim.
Yeah, like that's what he did say. Like he said, Connor Griffin will most likely be like a deadline type signing, just because there's a lot of things they need to work through in the contract, but that it will get done. So just everybody calm down about Connor Griffin.
I think a lot of it too is they're going to get everyone else signed, and then like, okay, well, whatever's left over, you get kind of thing too. So yeah. I think they only have one other guy in the first 10 rounds to sign. I think it's just Griffin and Wyatt Sanford are the only 2 top 10 round guys left. So I'd imagine someone like Sanford gets a tad over, just being a prep kid. Although I would have assumed that Levi Sterling was going to get over as well, and he got slot. So I imagine they work something out with Wyatt Sanford and then be like, okay, well, this is what we have left. Here you go, and the rest goes to Connor Griffin at that point.
Yeah. All right, let's shift focus to pitchers. Who we thinking? Who we talking about this week?
All right, so this week I'm gonna go. They've kind of like cut his rollback a little bit. I think mainly because of age, try to keep the innings in check. But Alessandro Urcolani is a guy that like on Bucks on Deck we were really high on coming into the season. He had a really rough May. He had one game to where he just kind of got blown up, and they had to make him eat a couple extra innings because to make sure they could get through the game. So ERA skyrocketed. He had like an ERA over 10 in May. Since then, since June 1st, DiNardo's favorite day, he has a 193 ERA, 4 strikeouts over 3 innings. His last time last week. It's just been ever since then. They've kind of, like I said, cut his rollback a little bit. Since June, he has a 34.1 strikeout rate. kind of guy. Another one of like the like data darlings kind of things. Like Baseball America every week has like their Robo Scout like standings that they do with like some of the top pitchers. He's been like in the top 10 in high A like all year. So like analytically, he's a very solid pitcher and stuff like that. He's another young guy for high A. He didn't turn 20 until the season started. Like I said, they've kind of cut his innings back a little bit to have him working out of the bullpen, but like multi-inning kind of stuff. So wouldn't surprise me by the end of the year. Maybe they kind of shift him back into rotation, kind of start giving him a little more innings. I think this year's kind of about managing the workload at this point, but very solid pitcher. He's just looked very good since that couple rough outings in May.
Yeah, I think Ercolani got on everybody's radar last year when surprisingly he was an Arizona Fall League guy at age 19. He didn't really get a lot of work in there. He only pitched in 4 games, 3 2/3 innings, but you're facing really, really good competition there. And for somebody who only pitched in Bradenton last year, that was kind of a surprise for me. So yeah, it seems like he's put together a pretty solid season at Greensboro, high A guy. I mean, the kind of an interesting story. Like he's from San Marino. I don't know if there's ever been a Major League Baseball player from San Marino. So, it's just kind of I mean, if you're familiar with San Marino, it's a town like surrounded by Italy. So, that's interesting. Who else we got pitching wise?
Going down all the way to the Complex League, the Complex team is in the championship this week or the next couple of days. They played game 1 yesterday. Carlos Castillo pitched in game 1 of the FCL championship. 6 innings, 1-run baseball. He pitched earlier in the week too, kind of like over the week. He was an 18-year-old kid. Last week threw 9 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. He's had a like the season stats, the 6 innings that he pitched on Sunday won't go towards like his season stats. They don't count like the Complex League stuff or the playoff stuff. But a 2.86 ERA and 34 2/3 innings this year. He was a guy that I got to see when I went down to Bradenton, and like he really stood out to me. Kind of gave like a Xander Meath light type of vibe, just because of like the lower arm slot, low to mid 90s, a lot of horizontal movement on the fastball because of the arm slot. Just it's a lot of uncomfortable at bats. He's very, very raw kind of thing. Sometimes struggles to like put batters away. Like you could see that in like the strikeout rate's a little bit low this year, but he has really good stuff. And like the more experience he gets with it, I really feel like he's like a very under the radar kind of guy to watch going forward. And he closed out the season really, really good for the Complex team.
Yeah, it's a guy who really hadn't been on my radar at all. Fangraphs has him in the top 30, so they like him. But yeah, strikeout numbers not super high, but yeah, overall his numbers, he put up good numbers in the DSL last year. This year being his first year, stateside, seems to be doing well as well. So yeah, just another name to put on your radar. If there's one thing this team has shown that they can do is work with pitching prospects. So yeah. So maybe another guy to just keep an eye on as he progresses through the system.
I do think he's a guy that may, like, normally I'd probably say that like he's probably done for the year, but he's actually thrown a couple less innings than he did last year in the Dominican. So maybe he's someone that you could say that you could slap up to Bradenton for a game or two or something like that. Bradenton needs pitching. Bradenton needs like pitching like really bad right now. So game 2's later today. If there's a game 3 would be on Tuesday. So Tuesday at the latest, the Complex season goes. So they'll have to start getting some guys up there to help out, I'd imagine.
Okay. So Complex League playoffs going on right now. The Pirates could win it today. Is that right?
No, they lost. They end up losing game one.
Okay, they lost game one.
So
all right,
yeah.
so they got to win today.
They got to win
tomorrow.
today. Win tomorrow.
Okay, and those games, there's sometimes they get streamed on YouTube, so you may even be able to see those later.
The next two should, because I believe they're doing the next two in Pirate City. Like game 2 and 3 should be in Pirate City. So
yeah, cool.
I think we found another complex team that did it too, but the Pirates like never play them, so it didn't matter. So
gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, Murphy, we appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for getting up early and letting us know who did well last week. You can find Murphy and all of his stuff. He's got great Substack, Bucks on Deck. Follow him on Twitter _Murphy88, I think. Right. And then Tuesday podcast with him and Nola. So if you want more prospect talk, we only have so much time to talk about prospects on this show, but him and Nola go real deep into that every Tuesday. So check that out as well. Bucks on Deck podcast. All right. Thanks,
Cool.
Murph.
Appreciate it, Murph.
Thanks for having me on.
See you, man.
All right. Cool stuff. I try to save you, Jim. No more Mitch Jeb.
I appreciate that. Throwing the flag on Jeb.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about Miss Jeb 3 out of 4 weeks on this show.
There you go. So you owe me.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm not going to tell you when, but when I tell you, you got to do it for me.
Depends on what it is.
Nope. Anyways. Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about this Astro series coming up?
Let's do it. The Astros are an interesting team because they started off so terribly this year. Like I thought they were
weird.
cooked. Like I was like, which is weird because they're the Astros. It's a good team. Like you look at the roster and it's like this team should be pretty good. And they started off just not good at all. But then their veterans started clicking and performing the way that they should be. Like Alex Bregman was somebody who got off to just an awful start. And now Alex Bregman's doing Alex Bregman things.
But like, it's also funny that they start off really, really bad. And then like, it felt like their turnaround came when they got the rash of injuries to like all their pitching, which is crazy. You know, like, again, you think they're cooked and it's like, oh, this guy goes down, that guy goes down. Now they're really cooked. It's like, no, we're back in it.
You look at their IL and like they have an entire major league rotation on the IL right now.
Yeah.
Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy, and Justin Verlander, all on the IL. That's a whole entire starting rotation.
And good.
Yeah. Like you put those 5 guys on a team and it's one of the best rotations in baseball. And what do? They just go out there and, they still have Framber Valdez. Ronel Blanco comes out of nowhere. He threw a no-hitter earlier this year, got suspended for some sticky stuff earlier this year, but like he's having a hell of a season.
I mean, he's an Astro.
Hunter Brown, another guy who was a rookie, I think last year, but he's having a great season. Then they call up Spencer Arrighetti, and he's been fine. ERA is a little high, but like, do you like the numbers on him? And then, Jake Bloss, another guy they call up who again hasn't pitched well, but he's in that rotation too. So the Pirates will see Jake Bloss tonight against Paul Skeens. So overall, you've got to like that matchup. Jake Bloss, he's made 3 starts. He has a 6.94 ERA. Striking some people out, but he's walking some people. He's given up a ton of home runs. So that has been his issue.
Blessing.
Yeah, that's been his issue. But you see Bloss on tonight on Monday. You see Hunter Brown on Tuesday, who is putting together a pretty good season. Yeah, he's got a 4.00 ERA and 110 innings. Like he's been sort of a workhorse.
And what I want to add to that is since June 1st, he's got a 2.07 ERA. He's 8-1 in his 10 starts.
Yeah, Brown's been really good. Lately. Brown's been really good lately. And then you've got Framber Valdez, who has also had a really good season, and he's been really good lately too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you got to win tonight. Like tonight looks
ERA.
Yeah. Tonight's the game where it's like You got to win this one. Paul Skeens versus Jake Bloss. Bloss is a righty. He's 23 years old. Yeah, you got to win that game. And then you've got to figure out a way to win one of Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You've got Falter probably starting Tuesday. Right now it's a TBA game. You got to imagine Falter is coming off the IL. So you're either going Ortiz again, or you're going Falter, or you're going like a mixture of Ortiz and Falter. And then they've got Perez going again on Wednesday. That's if Perez is still on the team
So far.
on Wednesday too.
Right. So far.
Yeah. So
and to answer Zach's question, Bloss is a righty.
Yep. So it's an interesting series. Tonight is like the game where you're like, you got to win tonight. Paul Skeens versus Jake Bloss. You got to win that game, and then figure out a way to win one of the other two.
And we say that because, like, and also ironically enough, coming out of the break, everyone was up in arms about, that Philly series. And then the Cards come in, and we were saying the same about the Cards. Like, that's a game. Paul Skeens, you got to win that one. You feel comfortable. And that's why you felt like this team can win 2 out of 3. And they don't, but they still take 2 out of 3. This one, I feel less confident that if they lose the Paul Skeens one, they can still take 2 out of 3. Even maybe 1 out of 3. So you're right. Like, tonight is almost like this is a very, very, very important game. And yes, you have Paul Skeens, and it's I hate to call it that way, but it's definitely a more inferior competition on the other side. This offense has to wake up. Like, got to give Paul Skeens some runs, because that's the other thing too. Like, they just haven't. Ironically enough, we jokingly said how Paul Skeens just makes everyone around him better, but it's been the opposite now. This team has not scored runs for Paul Skeens for whatever reason. I don't know, but they need to today. Paul Skeens is Paul Skeens. That guy is a dude. And this offense is good too. I mean, Jordan Alvarez is just dominating right now. Jose Altuve is there. Diaz, but like you said, Bregman's back. This is a tough task offensively too. But that's what Paul Skeens is. I feel very confident he's going to come out here and just do his thing.
An underrated storyline too that I don't think anybody's mentioned yet. Houston is the closest major league team to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's not that far away. For being honest, that's
true.
If you are an LSU super fan, which there are many, this is a trip you're probably making to see Paul Skeens throw a Major League Baseball game. So I think if there's one cool aspect to tonight's game is you're probably going to see a lot of purple and gold tonight backing Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's going to be a lot of Astros fans too who are LSU fans, so they're going to be conflicted. But Paul Skeens will have a crowd there tonight backing him, which will be kind of cool to see, because it will be a road game. But yeah, a good portion of this crowd tonight in Houston is going to be behind Paul Skeens.
I didn't think about that. That makes a lot of sense. And like, I'm sure too, like, there's a lot of Houston Astros fans down there because proximity wise. So they're probably invested into the Astros. Now Paul Skeens there, like, let's go see our boy, even though it might be the other team. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't think about
I've
that.
made that drive from Houston to Baton Rouge plenty of times. It's not a fun drive, but it's very, very doable.
Yeah.
I expect there to be a lot of purple and gold. And so, yeah, maybe the Pirates can do a little bit tonight down in Houston. And yeah, like I said, expect there to be, I would expect there to, like, just knowing LSU fans and how rabid they are. And I mean, you can go to a Pirates game anywhere and you're going to see LSU fans in the crowd during Paul Skeens starts. So the fact that he's making a start and it's not that far from Baton Rouge, yeah, he's going to have a backing there.
We didn't say it. It is TBA. But Bailey Falter was in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. No, Falter should be activated, and like, I think Falter starts tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Falter,
or at least some. Yeah, I think Falter starts tomorrow. Robert's even here from Baton Rouge. We get people who watch our show from Baton Rouge, so the fact that they're diehard enough to watch.
They love
a
Paul
Pirates
Skeens so
podcast.
much that they're going to watch
Yeah.
this pathetic thing
Yeah.
just
So,
to get
yeah,
some Paul
there's-
Skeens content.
Like I said, there's going to be some purple and gold or whatever they
Yeah.
call them. Yeah, whatever colors. I think it's purple and gold. Is it's about right.
Let us know, Robert.
Yeah.
Also, hi, Robert. Yeah. So good stuff. Definitely a tough series, but again, there's a whole line of tough series that are coming up for the Pirates that are very, very important, and it does definitely start tonight. So, Paul Skeens Day, though. Happy Paul Skeens, everyone who celebrates, especially
Happy
you,
Paul
Robert.
Skeens Day. Yep. And I got the post game show tonight, I think. So,
Congrats.
the fact that I do the schedule, helps in that regard.
Yeah, no bias there. Jim's like, when's Paul Skeens start? Monday and Sunday. That's what I'm going to do. My shows.
I am literally doing Monday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonder why. All right. I guess we should get out of here. So,
Yeah.
As always, everyone who's watching on YouTube, appreciate it. If you haven't, like, subscribe, do all those fun things. That way you'll know when Jim's live tonight talking about Paul Skeens' victory. Complete game shutout, right? Perfect. Maybe. And
We'll see what Andrew Filipponi, if he predicts another perfect game.
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But yeah,
But,
appreciate
and
all
of
of you.
course-
If you're listening on the podcast too, you guys are awesome. Appreciate everybody watching, tuning in, listening.
Yep. So with that said, we'll see you guys tonight. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.